journey. Inverted journeys. All right, so we're going to start with our seat on the bolster. You want to find that your sand is nearby, the ball is nearby, the belt, and the blocks. So when the feet are pressing down, feel where there is that energy of pushing into your feet, like you're leaning forward. You might even feel like you slide a little bit off the bolster because you do want to be very much on the edge of this. And then you'll recruit your core when you do lean back. So feel the body lean forward, then hands onto the bolster, and then scoot your hips forward like you're considering sitting on the floor in front, but keep up on there so you can sense your tailbone on the bolster. And then as you lower back, I like to be really as far forward as I can. And then when I lower back on my one blanket, you're going to bring your knees to point up and feel what it's like when they're in that up pointy pattern versus knees to chest. So this is where you will define how you're going to position your back on your bolster. So the rule of the rib on this pose is that you are going to feel the ribs open, the lungs open by having yourself upside down. So if you in time want to practice just these legs up patterns, you can add a blanket on top of your bolster and you get a little bit higher, but then it can be a little crowding for the chest, right? So you have to kind of find a neutral way of doing this. We're going to lift the feet up without any props. And then let the legs find that position of moving in together without too much discerning how they should look or be or point or rotate. Just notice your natural kind of inverted Tadasana, right? How are you when you're upside down with your leg pattern? What's your inverted habit in posture in your legs? So you're going to feel where the feet flex, feel the toes moving back. Bring your hands together to interlace at the roots of the fingers and turn the palms towards the sky. So you're going to push through the heels of your hands. And then lengthen your arms back overhead and work the way of reaching through the arms. Good. And then define where the back of the pelvis is on the bolster. If it feels like it's a little bit off the edge, when we set the sand on, you'll have a chance to reset your body and how your bones are creating that path of grounding at the hips. Relax the clasp of your hands. Reach to a sandbag. And when you do place that sand to the belly so that you can balance out the sack, the sandy sack, or ricey sack, whichever you use, I want you to get a feel of this kind of prim and proper push and notice the muscles in the legs that are required to simply flex your feet. I'm not flexing 100%, but I feel tired in my feet doing this. So now as you bend your knees, they probably will separate quite a bit, and then set the sand on the soles. Let the feet, as they push up, start to feel what the difference is when the feet have some weight on them upside down and how the muscles in the legs acclimate to that. Some of this pattern requires kind of some acclimation to the inversion. Since it's the head below the abdominal organs, and then moving your belt around the legs, and you're going to buckle up. So I want you to have that belt so it's around quite tight to the mid-thigh, and as the belt is connecting, feel where that connection is mid to upper leg, defining possibly the supportive balance actually for your feet. So if they get a little bit tired out, this will give them a nice base, kind of a the vase base is what this sort of is like as far as our ergonomics. Not that you were thinking that you were a vase here, but it is sort of like that. Okay, so with that support of the base, right, mine is a little bit higher than the mid leg. It feels like that's the balance for me, so go with that, good. And then feel where the legs are pretty happy with the flex of the feet as long as the knees aren't pushing in together. Pressing the tailbone down. We'll take the block between the hands and set the hands holding it wide. Move the block back overhead and set it down. And then feeling the proportion of the block between your hands. And I would lightly touch onto the block so you're orienting the arms in a similar support for that fluidic change, right? The idea in the inversions is that you're reversing the gravitational pull through the body, not just the organs, but the structure and how that creates that fresh oxygenated blood to your heart, to your lungs. It rests the heart. And so that's why an inversion is really a repairing, a pose that repairs. It's primarily shapes that are repairing the systems and taking the pressure out of the abdomen. Even though I don't necessarily feel like my abdomen has a lot of pressure standing during the day, but it's that downward pull of the organs. So right now there's this open space at the belly, the diaphragm can flow back towards the heart on the exhale. With gravity's directional support, right, with your angle. So assess the way that you receive your breath here. Maybe close your eyes. If you do have glasses on, I wear mine to see what's up with the screen, but glasses affect the muscles in the face, right? That's true when you put on your hardware. It makes the face, right, attend to the detailing. And so it's important if you are not in teaching mode, maybe to take them off. You might be able to see most of the experience or hear it so that the skin cells of the face can soften. And we stay in that still body position, but we continue to receive the breath and relax on the out breath. Try to keep the arms in that overhead position. If it's too much on the shoulder joints, simply open the arms out into cactus. That's okay. Might feel comforting for your shoulders. Now a few more moments. Feel that inner dynamic change. You might feel more circulation in the core of the body. And since your proprioception is a little bit turned upside down, feeling the input of the legs above you to help design that circulation in the mid-body. So let's take that block that's between the hands, and I want you to reach the arms a little bit over to your right side. My hands are holding the block, but my block is on the floor. I'm not trying to move it off the floor, but I am stretching that left armpit a little bit. So the key here is to keep the feet straight up versus letting them swerve. So you're maintaining just the arm movement, and then slide to the other side. Yeah, it might be a little bit of a confusing pattern to do when you're upside down. But trust the floor is beneath, the block is on. Your hands just kind of push the block to the left side. Okay, now we're going to come back in center and reach to the up towards the belt and loosen the belt up substantially, right? So it's going to still be a support coming up for our feet. But as you bend through the legs and then take that sand away, we're going to move our belt now up to our feet. Just the feet. It doesn't have to be around the knees or any other places, but I'm going to loosen up my belt so it's about approximately a little longer than my leg length. So I would just let that belt hang so it hangs, you know, close to your belly. It's just a good place to hang that. So it's a little longer than leg length. And it's still buckled up in a loop. And you hold on, you place that feet about hips distance, and then you work to push out into the belt, right? I still have my arms pulling straight down towards me, but I'm pushing up and a little bit out into the belt to recruit the back of the legs, right? So that's the bladder meridian, right? That's the focus. It's the longest meridian in the body. So now as you let the hands slide down all the way to the edge of that loop, support your connection into your feet and start to push them out and keep a little resistance going versus like flopping them out quickly to get to the destination. Feel your hands go up as the feet go out because that's just how things go. It would go like that anyway. Your hands would go up if your feet go out. And then let go of the belt, trust the balance. If it's shaky and it kind of achy in the legs too much, then you'll make the belt a little bit shorter, right? You bend your knees, hold the belt, tighten it up, make it so it's not quite as wide. And that's a guesstimate, the length in this one for us all. I try to assess how the top of my thighs are working, if my knee is turning in, and get a feel here of a tiny bit of external rotation. So the feet are not turning completely in. There's a little bit more of an external pattern right now. Like it's a Upavista Konasana pose, right? Wide angle. And then in this pattern, we'll bring our hands to rest open. So they're out to a T shape. Give it about 45 seconds. So we've had a good few minutes with our legs up at the beginning and at the end today. We've got a little ways till the end. So enjoy. And then feeling what is interesting about your circulation in your feet, if they get cold, noticing this change in the chemistry of the body, kind of that fresh oxygenated blood that moves down to the heart. So we're really working on removing pressure from that downward pull, and most beneficial for the lungs and the heart. But you can't really see through the screen like the organs, the change in the circulation. That's such a distinguished factor in this pose. So we're working towards that science of inverting the body. When I find my notes, I'll find more later. Okay, about 10 more seconds. Maybe we've been here 450 seconds, I'm not sure. Okay, now as you bend your knees, you're going to reach up to the belt and you're going to slide the feet as they move together and then bend them one more time and take the belt off. Okay. Actually, we'll bring it back on. I want to do our bridge pose this way. So scoop your belt around your feet. We'll do all the good science things here. How about that? This will be Science Saturday, not Science Friday. Okay. So you're going to tighten the belt down. And you want to have your body still on that bolster. We're still inverting. Okay. So I'm going to bring my feet to the other side. Let's say you're getting a little cranky in the back. It's a lot of work. This is a constant back bend. It's a baby back bend. So it's not moving you into a slouch position. It's the opposite. So it might be kind of some work for you to go through. So I'm going to scoot that belt up as high as it could go on my thighs. That's about it. My rear gets in the way at some point. I can't get the belt any farther up the leg. So then I tighten it down. Okay, this is my bridge support, my bolster for this basic bridge. I add my sand to the thigh lids. And as I work my legs to straighten, I'm going to go downwards with the thighs. Be sure that sandbag is kind of stacked up, and now the legs can basically push the feet a little bit apart. I know there's restriction with your belt, so you probably can't get out of that focal point with the thighs. And then get a feel of the ribs open, and there is a little limitation with the arm position here. So get a feel if your arms could be out to the sides, or cactus would be ideal. And then center the current, the circulation current through the back of the waist, down through the legs, almost as if you feel like you could kind of flow down the bolster and almost end up with your rear on the other side on the floor. So you are kind of pushing towards that reality, but you're hooked up on the bolster so that you can't really slide off. You're anchored to it. If you have a second sandbag, you can put it across the chest. We will do a Supta Baddha Konasana today, so you might have that opportunity soon enough. The legs are lengthening after being upside down, so they're straight. If it hurts your back, you can always soften your knees, bring your feet to the floor, bottoms of them down, and take the pose this way, knees bending. Okay? So again, if it's painful, that's not good alignment for you. Maybe for someone else, but not you. Now, emphasize the belly motion with the breath after having the legs upside down. This area turned upside down in its circulatory, reception. So let that kind of reception area of the belly organs get back to its reality. If any of these poses are its natural reality, I doubt it. But getting it back to where it can have a platform to move from. Relaxing the eyes. It's a series of poses that are really geared towards repairing, rejuvenating, nourishing. Okay, and as you inhale, fill the belly. And as you out-breath, empty the lungs. Feel the chin gently tucked, feel the glands in the throat. Now slide the feet one at a time in. Yeah, and the back might have some resistance right at this moment, something going towards needing release and recuperation from all that work. So as we come into our side sage, we're going to take our sand aside to the side sage. And when you unbuckle, you might want to spend, prior to rolling to the side, a little measured strength here. So I'm going to walk my feet in towards the bolster inwards, and then push down into my feet and lift up the buttocks, and notice that strength current around the hips. Like, okay, there's a sense of balance and bold. You could call them the bones or bolt in this position. They're kind of bolted, right, lifting up. And oh, it'd be so easy to just rest on your bolster too. So if you don't want to follow this guideline, that's okay. It's not a guideline, it's just a option to get out of the shape. So the knees tend to point out. I can almost notice my thigh bones have a direction there. So as you are, the psoas is centering down, you're going to actually use the bolster to roll into it. I want you to use the bolster to roll on it. So you're going to roll left, not trying to get off of it quite yet. Roll into the bolster and then slide down. So that bolster has a hand in massaging into the center body. Might as well use it, you know. It's its own kind of therapy, right? Using the bolster. Bolster therapy. That's what we're doing. Bolster therapy. I like it. Try to remember that. So make your way into side stage. Guess what? You need another blanket. So, you know, when I fussed with this one, I've used the 2 blankets stacked like this for a long time, right? This is the tendency, is my arm is between, I go over, I tuck in my blankets. However, some of you remember back in the past, this is the past now, you can use either 2 bolsters, your round bolster and your flat bolster on the side, and you can also pivot your blankets like this and place your arm between, your head on top, and your arm now has something to touch down to, like kind of the block was used for. It's one way to go. It may not be any different than what you were already doing with your blankets. To me, it's just an aesthetic looking difference. So it's just something different to do. So when I place my sand, I can start to feel a little change in my breathing, my lungs. I think the more you do this, the more sensitive you likely will get to the little changes internally and how to follow through with a good practice here. So feel where that sand is on the hip or the waistband. Notice what's the best for you. And that right knee is touching to the ball, or the ball is on the inner thigh. I'm starting to find I can use my left foot to kind of help get that ball to a spot that supports responsive structure. And then that right arm can go either overhead or behind you in midair, or rest it to the floor. Let's resting at any point. Good. Let your complexion relax. Feel how you motion now from the head really below the legs and the core organs. Now things are leveled out again. So it might not make a change in your brain waves. You might feel a little more circulation in the body in general, just an improved sense. And as we take a few more moments here, do any little adjustments. Maybe you like to move your upper arm, feel the chest reach. Maybe you like to lower the hand down and rest it. Even if you get a little sleepy, that's okay. You'll catch up. And one thing I'm noticing in learning this, having a bit of a coach with it, is to try to keep my leg in line with my pelvis is a good start plan. And then if I try to slide it a little bit back, then I influence my quad a little bit. But see if you can stay with some of the basic qualities of that rich sense of spaciousness in your side. It's kind of interesting that many of us are doing this side pattern in hopes to open up the front of the thigh as well. But what's helping out with that is the lateral rotators of the outer leg that has to start opening. It could be helpful if it started opening. Okay, a few more breaths here. Now, when you let that sand slough off, okay, what we're going to do is come around to a all fours pattern. So, adjusting for a moment to get my knee in, the ball aside. And when you turn to your bolster, if you need a blanket under your knees, add that, depending on your flooring. But take a couple blocks. The blocks are under your hands, and what you're going to try for is, I did say all fours, I didn't say what yet, but to all fours pattern. So feel when your hands are on the blocks. I find this interesting, as far as the alignment assignment for this in the architecture. Just take a moment to lift up the knees and stretch the heels back. And I want you to try that feeling. Just try the feeling. And then lower your knees down and move your block out. And then put your hands on the floor and try that again. Okay, push back to dog pose. And then we'll try these two. We're going to try the up dog with the blocks. So my blocks are under my hands. I know you might be facing the other direction. Hopefully it's easy enough to follow. And then I'm scooting my knees back so I have space. My blocks under my hands. And then move into that up dog. But notice your wrists. Notice your shoulders. This is what you need to find in this with the blocks. Okay. And then try that without the blocks. Just kind of feel. Feel if one gives more support into your wrists or vice versa. That's the one you're going to choose. We're all different with our requirements for our wrists. Okay, so if you like the blocks, you're going to come back to table without the blocks for a moment. Bring the knees in underneath the hips. You could use the blocks for cat-cow. There's no on that one. So if you want to try them, grab them. Seems like it makes it easier. It just brings the shoulders to open. So we either have blocks or no blocks. Round your back, chin to chest. And then as you inhale, I want you to feel the heart kind of drop down, like you're going to dive down. So move through the heart and then arch the spine. Rather than trying to push your head out of its shell, imagine if you were like a tortoise. So I want you to move through the whole body so that vertebral column mobilizes with inhale through the arch and exhale through the rounding. Move your head back and chin in. Inhale through the arch. Last time, exhale through the rounding. Now come to that up dog. So blocks or no blocks. Maybe feel if there's weight into your hips on the bolster. Okay, and then when you come back to down dog, if you don't want to do down dog, you can bring your knees out wide and come back to child's pose here. Okay, if you are going to go to down dog and child's pose, you lift up your knees, stretch your heels to the floor, and rock your waist. Try to lift up and back, so try to get your side waist to lengthen. Good, so reaching from your hips as if they were able to have a pulse of movement back, and the heels are motioning to the floor. Try to kind of stomp back into the feet. Come back to that table pose, and then reach your knees down, let your toes relax, the knees apart. Come back. If your knees are a little delicate, bring the knees wide. Get yourself some space back from the bolster, and then lower down your forehead to the bolster. Relax your hands. So I would turn the palms open and try to get my weight farther back to my feet, but that's up to your knees, isn't it? But it's a Baddha Konasana leg position. That's really what it is, with the knees out. Okay, now coming into side sage with the right arm down. So I'm going to slide my arm between the bolster and blankets, and I'm going to turn to my right hip. But like we did last time, you want to try to kind of get up on that bolster a little bit. Kind of use that to massage into your side, and then add on the props that support you. I think that's what they basically do. They are supporters, okay? So I try to work my way of movement so I'm lifted up by the bolster. And this is why if you have the round bolster, get it, use it for this, for your side, for the first, this part that's underneath your waistband. So that round bolster, even if you have one of the larger ones like a Hugger Mugger, they're pretty bulky and firm, that will really lift you up and help the low back. It really creates that separation in the low back muscles. Use a ball on the inside of that left knee. Don't wait until it hurts that you have to add it on. Oh, that happens. You just get into the shape and then wait until there's an ache and then add the prop. So the arch of the back is pretty dug in on this position. I have it quite, it's cruising into my lumbars. So I'm going to spread the waistline to reach through the arm. And then maybe my head rolls into the blanket. Maybe it rolls a little bit back. Maybe your breath is now the essential ingredient after you get your bones on your props. That is a feature that can invite some exploration, but also like some supportive angle into your props, how you breathe, scanning the places that you breathe, feeling the awareness through the chest. Now, can you have the left leg rather balanced below the hip and still feel the stretch in the front of the thigh? Or is it required for you to kind of push back into that left leg a little bit to get engaged in the very thigh front, the quadricep? And then the pelvis can play a part, right? We just did cat-cow, so you have some familiarity with arching and rounding, flexing through the back. So here, kind of notice you're mostly arching, but what if you were trying to create a little bit of tail in, and that would feel more stretch in the front of your thigh, right? If you try to push your tailbone back, the front of the thigh is not going to get that sensation of opening, really in your hip flexors, right? So kind of notice where your back posture is, how that might influence your rotators, your lateral rotators, side of the leg, and your quadricep. So the best idea here would be just to let yourself be and find what's your kind of organic self with your hip and thigh for a few more breaths. So not clinging to forcing a direction. Find where you rest in the center. Sometimes it works out. Okay, receiving your breath. Good, and let the spine have that natural arch all the way up into the brainstem. And from the brainstem up, it's going to be your attitude with breath that will relax yourself. That's key. That's key to the brain alignment, I suppose, if you want to work on that hardware or software. Hardware is below. Okay, now good news, we're going to balance both sides. So we've had a little in and out of the adductors. And now we're going to take that sand aside. And this time, we're not going to turn down to the chest. We're going to actually keep it open to the front of your space. So now as you let your left knee draw towards the right knee, feel that scooping action. And then roll into the right and help yourself to come up a little bit, halfway. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our bolster and set it up on top of those blankets behind you. So I have you turn your blankets across your mat. If you already have them across, you're perfect. If you've got two bolsters going here, you'll want to have one bolster, the flat one, positioned right up on top of the blanket. So the blankets could be double stacked. You don't have to make any fancy blanket on top and below, unless you have some neck particulars that you need that blanket rolled up under your neck. So that would be different for some of us. We're going to do Supta Baddha Konasana. So this other bolster is not going to be helpful unless you're doing a Supta Baddha Konasana that's for sleeping. If you are, you can put the bolster under your knees are out and your feet are together and you just go back and relax. So it's okay if you want to take a little nap there. You could do Supta Baddha Konasana with your other bolster and just place them underneath the legs instead of these blocks, right? It just makes it softer and more relaxed. Okay, that's always good. So take a belty into the wide loop. It's going to go overhead. And this loop pattern today will be simple. We're not going to do a lot of twists and crosses with the belt. However, when it is around your waist, remember you want to almost sit on the belt, right? So it's very low, right? You're almost sitting on it. I've seen it taught almost actually all the way down to sit on it. Seems like that would pull the SI joint a bit. So let's just work with basic good support. Unless we're interested in circus performance or something. No circus. Okay. So we got a belt around. My belt is really over the tops of the feet, the ankles. I think we've got that down. Yeah. So place your blocks, for those I can see. You got your ball nearby now. This is a good time to have that. And then when you add your sand, it can be on your feet, it can be on the thighs. When I shift back, I'm going to use that belt to kind of help me lower down. It's kind of a nice support when I lower back for my back muscles. I'm going to pivot my block so you can see how that bolster could be used right here. It just takes a little more finagling with the belt, but it's possible. It is taught. So we have the sandbag, but asking everybody to do that might be too many props. But some of you have them. So have the sand across so that the places we did the inversion can now really receive and center, especially down into the diaphragm. Because that's that primary inverted breathing muscle that's affected by being upside down. Right? Because as you breathe in, right, the circulation, the dynamic of the diaphragm as it moves downwards. So when your legs are up, it's got to climb that way. But then when you exhale, it makes the exhale longer. So that's why the nervous system gets calmer from that pattern. It's less irritation or inflammation in the body. So I'm just going to let the sac kind of center where it does naturally. It's a little lower than I want it, but that's just the way it's going to be in my ribs today. So you might kind of try to jimmy the ribs a little bit around, and then they may just kind of push your sand where they like it. And then let your arms present themselves to relax your fingers, your wrists, the back muscles of the shoulders. And if you don't like the bolster under your head, you really miss that blanket, you're certainly welcome to shift out, get your blanket, reset, reorganize. Reset, restorative. But as the belly expands and contracts. So this is the second layer today of the practice. We started with inverted and side patterns, and then inverted again with that lift up the hips behind us. And now we're going to work in towards the core, the twists. You know, the chin would ideally be a little bit more in this upper version of the throat versus tucking the chin down. Since this is a light chest opener, you can imagine that it would probably be the chin is centered up versus jamming down to the chest. You know, it used to be taught more often in that pattern when our posture was not so forward, tech forward. So just noticing, right, what's important to you. If it feels a little alienating, after a minute, you want to drop down with your chin. See what you need to do with your shoulder muscles to get there, to open the chest. Okay, the arms are going to stay passive. They're not going to get up and down and jump around. They're going to stay comfortable right now. So make an impact on your inhale. Fill the lungs. And empty the lungs out of the mouth. Now the spine stays exactly the same, some energetic change when you move the legs. And move your sand off. Bend the knees so the feet scoot in. And then as you slide the belt off your feet, what we'll do is place the ball next to the left upper outer leg, okay? And then lift the right foot to the left knee. Now when that right foot is up, you're going to lean into the ball with that left thigh. And if you don't have a ball, you know, the block isn't that bad to use. I've noticed that's okie dokie. The ball is something that you can actually move a little closer to the under the buttocks. You can kind of squeeze it and then push it in towards that side layer. And then when you lean into the ball, you might notice that it kind of opens up in the low back track. It's kind of weird, right? Where that if the ball moves under the thigh, it can almost alleviate the lower back. It's a good thing to do before we do seated twists that are coming next up on our bolster. So we're aiming there. We're going to hold the right knee with the left hand. If that's not something that you want to practice as holding your knee, that's okay. You could pass on this pull. But those that are going to pull on the knee, feel the right arm reaching back besides your head. Get that arm to lift. And if you're not going to pull on your knee or it's just inconvenient to get to it, your arm could be on the floor and your right arm could try going back. You never know, right? You could try this with your right knee turning out a little bit versus holding on to it. I find that holding the knee and drawing it towards me is pretty good. Circulation in my hip, fairly dense. So find how we polish the flow of energy through the legs. And then switch your side. Feel what it's like to do that. You take the arms, rest them uncrossed, recross to the other side, move the ball, try to keep it so it's about the same from what you can tell. So go with feeling versus looking with the eyes, go with feeling. And then lean your body weight to the right and get that feel of holding onto that left knee and get a pull with your hands. And get that feel where the left arm could stretch back. That almost adds a dynamic that can be slightly challenging. But kind of take the shapes with ease, right? You're almost like utilizing the benefit that we have a sequence that we're following, and you take what is pleasant out of it, and then maybe a little challenge here and there, what you would not add in on your own. And then do that evaluation through the practice while you're processing And then even after, just out walking, kind of notice how your body is absorbing the practice. Let that left arm lower down, and then as we take that right hand off the knee and we come back center, this left knee is going to be in the same angle in a few moments when we're sitting up. So I just want you to kind of remark on the work, the symmetrical patterns that we're doing. We're trying to create symmetry at some point. But uncross and then use your ball between the knees and bring your hands so that they actually got to move this belt off. That would be a little bit of a dynamic challenge. It wouldn't be too horrible, but we're going to lift up into some core chamber work, and hold the back of your head so that you're not going to be forcing your neck to tense up and relocate its energy. So keep that location of energy in the neck supported, like you're pushing back into the hands. Now, can you keep that pushing back? Then you start to set yourself up to that kind of crunch position. Now, as your feet scoot forward, you're going to squeeze the ball and see when you can let off on the hands and reach them to the legs, and then maybe even kind of pull to come up. And then find sitting bones. Your fine sitting bones you're on, and then scoot your seat back. We're going to lean back, and we'll do about 6 of these total. So I want you to lean back, and then as you squeeze the ball to come up, okay? So breathe. As you squeeze the ball, do you tend to inhale? I want you to try to exhale when you come up for this one. Inhale when you lower back. So I kind of have a monitoring pressure on the ball when I lower down. When I inhale, exhale. Okay, play with that breath wave. Okay, so now some of us will find, no, I like to inhale when I sit up and exhale when I come back, or vice versa. So get yourself confused with that for a few moments. Inhale, exhale, we hail. There we go. Okay, now without that core serious looking, it's such a serious pose. We're going to come on up and you're going to keep the ball. I think we can maneuver this one. We're going to turn our bolster. Okay, keep the ball if possible. If you've got to take it out because you're frustrated, so be it. Oh my, I got myself in a real snag with this belt. Okay, so take the bolster behind you and you're going to sit up on it. And then as I sit with this ball, I'm going to focus here on leaning back. Right now I'm up, so this hip flexor stuff is going to really get interesting. So I want you to hold onto the top of the thighs and squeeze the ball so that the belly is in a recruit mode. Squeeze the ball, and then you're going to come up, center, right, center the self, and then we're going to take the ball out. We're going to stretch the right leg open and the left knee bend. So this left hip, this left side of the waist, I want you to place the sand up there as high as it will go on the left top thigh. So right leg is out, okay? Yeah, and I know some of you, I'm actually turning to the side, so mirroring you is not really the option at this moment, but the cues on each side should be correct. So my right leg is out, and I'm going to have this belt, which I'm so glad is still buckled up, but it's not like that for all of us right now. You're going to take the belt overhead or around your foot and then buckle it around your waist. That's fine too. So my belt just happens to be pretty long right now, and you need the length, and you're going to place it around your foot to your very base of your waist here. Yeah. So all this core stuff, this front thigh, this hip flexor, the psoas, might feel some effect from this. And in the very beginning, we're going to turn left and hold on to that right leg. It could be below knee, above knee. It's everybody's knee is going to have a different experience with this. But this left foot is in this kind of funky angle. So the lower leg bone. So you might scoot your foot forward, you might pull it in, okay? okay? The truth is the closer it is in, the more centered you might be. But some of us like that core work and we kind of scoot the foot out. So let's take the shape. So we hold on, we relax our breath, and then we rotate the waist. And there might be some kind of end game, end range on this one. This is like your final range of direction. So kind of cope with that. Cope with the end range, okay? And then feel how that right foot is pushing into the belt. How much intensity do you want to push into your foot so that you get some nice resulting directional flow? So I would say neutral. Just let it be. Just let the belt hold your leg and your hip. Okay, so door 1 is here. My head is turning a little to the left. Door 2, and door 1 you could stay with. Keep in mind. Door 2 is I bring my left hand up to my waist, and then I reach my right hand to the belt, and I'm going to hold on to both sides of the belt. I'm just kicking my leg up for you to see. I'm grabbing both sides of the belt, so I pinch it together on top of the lower bones of the leg, below the knee. And I'm going to slide my hand closer and closer to that foot. You know, and it might not get anywhere near. And here's the idea with this option too, is if you don't want to grip onto your belt like this, you could put a block right beside your leg, behind that right leg, right to the right side of it, and put the block at the medium or the high height. Or you could stack 2 blocks on the low height that's pretty comfy and put your elbow on that, and then feel the left arm up. So hold the belt or use the block. I like the block right now. For whatever reason, it just feels a little more centered and not kind of frazzled gripping onto the belt. So get that side reach, and you could turn your head down to your right leg. Get a little more reach with the arm. Try to feel where that side body meets the back body. All right, side body feels so rib-like, but the whole flesh pattern of movement is important here. So reaching, breathing. And now feel how the back muscles are responding to that reach. And then you're going to start to come up, and if it gets a little bit kind of like you're moving up on a stand, like you're trying to work with a little rigidity, see if you can move up with a little roundness through your back so it's not so rigid. And then hold the belt with both hands and bring the leg in front of you and slide the belt up on your back, and simply use the belt to hold your body weight, hold the weight of your leg. You know, however much you want to work on your hamstring, you could tighten the belt and the leg will go up, the leg will shake, the leg will go up. You could grab it with both hands and pull. But sometimes it's nice to be right in the middle here and have it in front of you, correct? And work with that reasonable amount of arch in your spine and try to come forward so the leg is flowing up from the ground. It's hovering. It's more than hovering. It's not like it's right above. It's quite a bit above the ground. It's about a mid-block height for me. You could even use a block under it, and then you're not tightening your muscles much, but you know, if that's the need for you and you're gripping up, use a block. But otherwise, be a little curious about this core body, kind of the belly body, the belly bod. And then we're going to take this position, this positive positions. We're going to scoot the left foot under. I'm going to keep my sand on my left thigh. And I'm going to eventually take this to a twist, but it's kind of a trippy way to go with it. I'm really pushing into my seat. I've got my bolster. It's not going to fly away. Certainly not going anywhere. Bend the right knee. Okay. Feel how you push into your belt to support your back muscles. It's like they kind of tone the back. Okay. And now I'm going to cross the right leg. I'm going to get my belt off of holding my foot over my left thigh to the floor. And then when I twist, I probably am okay with the blankets, but I'm going to put my hand on the blanket and then bring my left arm, either hold the right leg and twist, or elbow connects and arm straightens and twists. You decide your rotation. But stay with this upright pattern. Like when you inhale, you feel yourself kind of clamp down, but as you exhale and turn, you're up. So your upper lobes of your lungs are getting tapped into. Working on your lungs, your breathing muscles. I know the organs are the most obvious place of circulation and repair here is in the vital organs. But the circulation is also dynamic in your breathing muscles. Now you can stay here longer. For those that want to get the twist for a good 1 to 2 minutes, give it a little bit more time, 10 breaths. And those that want to come back to pigeon, this is your time, so you'll have more pigeon time. That would mean you turn forward, move your right leg back, take your sand off, take pigeon with the bolster under your thighs. Those are in the twist, might stay a little bit longer, depends on what you want the timing in. I like turning in the waistline and recruiting the kind of the complex of my back muscles and my front muscles of my core. Since they spend most of the day kind of dumping forwards, you know, that's what they're going to do when you stand on 2 feet, right, and sit. So I'm just giving that content a little bit of a workout, okay? It's not like you go take a long walk and you're able to like do a lot of twists while you're walking and hold them. So this is kind of your time. And then when you're ready to come back, those of you that are already pigeoning will join you. Get out of your belt. Don't get caught on your belt. Take the right leg back now. We don't want to have the sand weight on the left leg for a couple reasons, but primarily so that we can supply some energy on the right thigh at some point. So my elbows could be on the floor or on my blocks. I've got a couple blankets behind me, so that's a bit many for some of us. If it's too much and you want your knee to go lower back behind you, you can always slide it away. Okay, so get a feel where the weight is into that left hip. Now when you come back, this time we're going to add in a couple patterns on hands and knees between these two sides. So that's a kind of an inner balance work. So when I hook toes under and I come back on that left knee, I'm going to remove the bolster from the situation, okay, for the time being. I'm going to get rid of one of my blankets. And then I'm kind of basically bare with the mat, just me and mat, and hands are open. And then the toes are under or they're relaxed, you choose. And as you move forward to the front lines of the hips, you might feel a little difference from right and left side, just right here. Just kind of feel, they feel different. One has been worked all the way up into the bones on the left side of the waist, actually, from that twist. So it is pretty interesting how it's relating inside the body. So focus on that up dog. Now, here's one where you might come down to your belly just to take a little belly break in Sphinx pose. This is fine. Come down to the elbows. You might try your up dog, down dog with your blocks again. Okay, so take a little mini Sphinx pose right now. So the elbows are down, my shoulders are back. And if my spine is feeling a lot of pressure, most of that is the blanket under the knees. It's popped up, so it's going to compress slightly more. So you might hook your toes under and kind of wiggle your way forward so the knees are not so much on the blanket. That can help quite a bit. But we'll take a few more moments with Sphinx. So the shoulders are strengthening in this pose. It's nice to just be really clean with the practice, just specific shapes. Feel the belly push into the flooring. Okay, now as I let my head tilt down, my arms are pretty warm, and they're getting some energy kind of flowing through them. So when I lower down and then I slide my hands back, now I'm in more of a preparation to lift up for my front body. So I want you to spread the fingers open wide. And then, pause to notice how you might work your muscles to get up. Some of us will kind of struggle quite a bit to get up, and it's all struggle the whole time. So what you might work with here is head, chin tucks in, and then push and lift up, and maybe play with the blocks under your hands for that. Kind of get a feel right now. So what we're going to do, this is actually a good one we'll work with. Some of us remember heart bridge or heart hammock. Okay, it's been a while. Okay, so when we go forwards, we're going to place the hands behind the blocks, and when I lower down, I'm going to put the blocks underneath my chest. It's right at that inner point, so I'm putting the blocks under my shoulder tips in the front. And then as I lower down, okay, you might want to have the bolster tip might be really nice here under your forehead. It's kind of perfect. And then I'll move my arms back, okay? So this is to get some strength in your upper arms, your upper back, but also to open the chest. Now, if you're really confused watching this and can't see since I'm facing down, you want your blocks, right? So they're right onto the inner edge of the pecs. Right, so with this muscle here and this attachment into the shoulder, you basically are resting that into the block. It's a rest into the block versus forcing into the block. Let the block do the work of opening up that space. It's pretty important. Okay. So a few moments. And if the bolster doesn't work for you and you want a blanket there, that's fine. So the arms are back. Palms are open. Yeah, give it a few moments where you're just here. It's not all of a sudden something's going to happen exciting. The excitement is that the arm circulation is changing. That's about where we're at, right? At our house. Well, yeah, we're in home practice often, and this is just one piece of it. Okay, now feel your shoulders, like feel if you can move your arms a little bit up off of the block. So I have my head down on the bolster, and I'm actually lifting my arms back and up so my palms are towards the ceiling. Okay, it's kind of getting me there. I'm strengthening. And now as I bring my hands out to the sides, right, palms down to the sides, on the block still. Now you're going to bring your hands to the blocks. This is big time change. So you're in locust pose. And you're going to push to come up to up dog. And that might take a lot of arm to get there. And mostly that balance in the upper back. So my up dog is pretty far forward with my hands. Okay? So you can play with the balance of the blocks. But when you come back to table, oh, what relief it is for the back. Round the back into cat. And then inhale, arch the spine. Okay, step the right foot between the blocks, lift the back knee up by hooking the toes under, and then turn to your left, so you're going to be in a wide angle forward bend, and take both blocks under, one under each hand, toes in, heels out, wide stance, push the blocks a little forward on your ground, and let your head hang between the arms. Let the head just go. So feel the weight of your hands, but also notice the weight of your head dropping down. There we go, that's nice. So the spinal column has an immediate range and a lengthening without force. There is some requirement of leg engagement to do that, isn't it? Certainly a leg engaged pose. Right, you might find the thigh bones are gripping up a little bit on the tops, thigh tops. Okay, now we're all on our mats, and so we might be facing the other direction for this leg pose, but when you walk your blocks in, you're going to turn to your left foot to the back direction. So your back heel is reaching to the floor. You're in a basic standing parallel legging forward fold. So my feet are in two different tracks, but they both are trying to aim closer to parallel, although my back foot is not in that perfect model of it. It's working the foot bones to that angle. And then reach your waist down over that left leg. You can come all the way into it with your blocks at any height that you would like. You probably need your blocks for this. If you don't, you tend to collapse. So use them so you have some order around the engagement of the waist and the arms. And then take center one more time, that wide angle, give it a moment. Okay, let your hands push forward. Let your head relax between your arms. If you prefer to come back to the full pose like this, you could bring your hands down, move your blankie a bit, and then hands are between the toes and reach your crown to the blanket. That just depends on your range of motion, doesn't it? So if that's not a calling for you, then you have your blocks in front and your head is down. It's an inversion, right? So we're trying to get head below the heart. So that would be the reasoning behind either holding your legs or putting your hands down and your head down. That's the reasoning, right? So get a feel for the legs, reaching back, the thigh muscles kind of pulling up like you're lifting and drawing up the kneecaps. Okay. We're all good, whether you have your head kind of between your arms or you're all the way into that wide stance. Be okay with it. And then start to move your hands and blocks to the right side, to your right foot. Turn the right foot over, and so now we're over the right leg before we come down for pigeon. Okay, we're almost to that second side, but feel that perception of the top of that back thigh trying to move its way behind you. Not just that the leg is realistically, I see my leg is back there, but use the muscles. See if you can bring some intelligence into the bones beyond just placing them in areas. Feel the energy inside them, right? Or actually what's over them, right? How you're manipulating the tissues. And if you want to come down a little farther, you could maybe lower your blocks or move them farther forwards. That's fun. It's a different excursion for the left calf. Yeah, and you might feel one calf more than the other, like very dominant sense of difference there. Okay, so let's take ourselves into that bend of the right knee, the lift of the back heel. And then wherever your bolster is, you're going to see if you can get that bolster underneath your right leg. And then begin that process of scooting your right foot forward and lowering the back knee down. If you use 2 blankets for your last pigeon, take a moment to get it all together so you're even. And then right foot crosses over and toe heel, and kerplunk. You're on your bolster. There we are. Yay. So feel where that right knee is open, where the hip is in circulation for sure. Hands can be down. Your best support for your knee joint is the arms down, right? Versus pushing your ribs up and lifting too high. You want to be somewhat courteous to your arm angle, which is going to change the back angle, and then the hip in the knee. I suppose it all affects. It's all in effect, isn't it? I guess it's all in effect. Hopefully effective. So come to that breathing depth, fine tune the in and out breath. And notice if there's any hardening of muscle tone and how you can direct the breath channel to help you engage in movements that are easier for your body, even in the poses. Okay, now when you come up into that extended open left leg, you're going to come up, left leg's going to stretch out, kind of open. Okay, left leg is out. And then when that right foot scoots towards the bolster, you're going to place a sandbag on the right thigh, a ball under the right knee, and then a belt around you to your left foot. All those things. A, B, C. And then as I put the belt around the foot, you might find, since this is it's a whole different discipline at home, right? You can really get your order around your poses nicely. And consider where your span is of your waist, right? So I'm centered forward, and then when I turn my waist, there are these different chambers, right? There's the lower chamber. As far as the vertebral column, similar, right? As far as our chambers of movement. So when you're turning to your right, I kind of feel the left foot is really, it's really nice to have the belt so you have something to push out, and then you can rotate, push, rotate. If the back of your left knee is not liking that, it's too much hyperextension, you can't help but push it down, put a block under that leg. It's really no big deal. I put it under just above the knee, because if I put it under the knee, then it actually gets more hyperextension possibly. So I kind of scoot it up high. It's the height of my bolster really, so it doesn't really change the possibilities. Left hand to right knee, it just makes it so that I'm not going to hyperextend it. So when I turn the waist to the right side, yeah, accept your limitation, right? There's only so far you're going to naturally be owl-like, but you do have the possibility of breathing deeper and finding the way of rotating to the right side, and feel the shoulder move back, the heart lift. If your head wants to stay center, if you want to tilt your ear to the shoulder on the left ear over, you could do that as well. Now, as your left hand reaches to the belt, or if you're going to use that block outside of the leg, so you're either holding your belt and leaning to the left, or your elbow is onto a block and you're leaning so that the side beam of the waist has that nice coat of awareness. It's not necessarily like your fullest stretch there because it's so dense, those fibers. So kind of feel the density here of circulation in your waist and your hip, the weight bearing into the left leg. And the right arm might stay behind you. You might be holding the belt. You might like that balance. And you might be moving the block away from underneath. I think my favorite of this would be 2 flat blocks stacked besides the leg. And then when I lean in, right, I have this kind of leaning back and opening sense when the arm goes overhead. And I turn my head down. And I can stay with that steady tracking of the lengthening process of the side. Yeah, the connective tissue really can be drawn to this potential here. It feels pretty good. Okay, so let that right arm go behind you if it hasn't already. And then come back up. We're going to bring the left leg forward. And you don't have to go that speedy, but you're going to move it forward. And then take the belt up, 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 as high as it will go on your shirt. So as you move your left foot forward, you're going to lean back just the right amount. So I might be appearing like, you know, I'm leaning a little bit back on my bolster. I'm still on it though. So find that sweet spot where, you know, when we invert, we have the legs up. There's like the sweet spot of balance when you're in the middle of the room. We are going to come to the wall with that, so it'll be a little bit more sedating and a little bit calming on the lungs and strengthening right into the respiratory muscles. So that way you're not straining, right? When you're in the middle of the room, there's a little strain with the legs up. So take this one where you feel the foot against a prop, right? It's not a wall, but it's a belt. And then I like to rig it up so it's a little bit higher. My foot goes a little bit farther up in the air. But that's if it's not in a shaky zone, right? Your foot might go up towards the ceiling, but find what's a good core balance so your lower abdominal muscles, right? If you think that there's muscles there, there are. The lower abdominal muscles, and feel that there's actually some pulse of breath in that space. It's not just sleepy town, right? So if I yank my leg all the way up and, you know, try to bring it up towards the ceiling, I sort of don't really spend any energy in that lower core zone. Okay, a few more moments. Just work on that mid to lower core. Your foot is pushing forward, so let's just say you didn't have a belt right now. Just try it without the belt, right? You're going to notice you're using your core a lot. And so this is to help your hip flexor not get so yanked around. It's not as tight, and do the core work. That's why we're using the belt. Okay, so now as I bend through that left knee, I'm going to use my hands and hold and cross the left leg over the right. Feels a little bit like a small zone to get across to. And then as you turn to your left side, you're going to rotate through the waist. So use this left hip, support it. You could pull it in a little bit. You could hug it in with that right arm. But make sure that you can still feel your left sitting bone. So if you tug on it and you fall into the right, then you know that you're not balancing out your seat very well. So use that elbow touch and then feel the rotation through the ribs. Yeah, spend the energy here. Now, if the hip could get a little bit more work, you might be able to hug the leg in. We are going to go directly to each hip and then to legs up. So in lieu of being on the ground and kind of rolling around on our back, I want to focus on kind of the crisp inverted pattern today. So I know some of you might really want that hip, a little more hip stuff. So we'll add 2 hip poses now. So as we unwind, but if you have to get on the ground, on the floor, flat on your back and roll around, that's okay. No one has to do exactly this. But as you get under your belt, here's 2 hip ones. We're going to take the sand off for a moment, but we're going to move this left foot so it's in front of the right knee, okay? It's not the same as we did on that funky Thursday class when I had the heel to the toes. So when you're forward like this and you're leaning front, you want your sand on your left thigh. Okay, so it's on my left thigh. And if I have my ball, I can put under my right leg, but lean into it and get a feel if you can scoot your left foot forwards. Now, if this is rather easy going for you, you're going to walk your hands to the right side. Okay, so you can lean and let your head lower down. If it's just not enough hip stretch, I know there's more that you can do with your leg. You could stack your foot on your knee and do fire logs, but just consider your aging knee. That is a pose that will present more intensity in the knee joint and also a little more feeling in your hip joint, but try to find something that's a pretty good balance for your joint capsule. I don't think you're going to want to stress it. It's tempting to do those fancy things, but do the basic circulation skills. Okay, now take the hands out wide and switch the legs. So left leg back and right leg in front of the left. Swap it, sand on the right side. Stretch the hands forward on blocks. Try to lean your body weight down. Fun to do before we get upside down. So when we are kind of squishing the organs this way and that way, over to the left you might go. Squishy, squishy. Squishy, mushy belly organs. Yeah, breathing in the belly this way is a little tough. It's like you kind of just do the best you can. It's easier when you're on your back with your legs up to get a full kind of chest controlled breathing focus, but doing the best you can with releasing your back. Now bring the blocks forwards. They're a little wide at your hands, your shoulder width a little bit further out. Okay, now feel that complex of the back. And then as we come back with our hands, we're going to uncross through the legs. You might want to shake them out. You might want to do a little forward bend with your knees bending a little deeper than you thought, just to send the energy through the back lines of the body. Head down. Okay, now you can feel the visceral pressure when you're in a forward bend right here for your hamstrings. Now, when you come up to the wall, we're going to take our bolster or a stack of blankets at the edge of a wall. We're going to get upside down one more time. You don't have to have sand, but if you do, grab it. And all you need extra with that is a blanket. Okay, so you're going to sit with your right or left hip against the edge of the bolster, but the key is to get your buttock to the wall. So I want you to get as much to the wall as you can before you swing your legs up. Okay, so you want to get as much to the wall with your rear, really close. Scoot, scoot up, and then roll and the legs go up. Now the hamstrings might still feel like you did a second ago. They might have no pull on them anymore. And if you have tight hamstrings, you'll be a little farther away from the wall. And you're still getting the benefits of the inversion, whether you're far away from the wall or your legs are up on a chair or your legs are up on a bed. You know, the idea is to get your legs up. And maybe you'll get a sandbag too. Okay. So the legs are upside down. Wiggle around. Okay. I'm going to work on this one with my sand on my feet. Taking that shape if you like, if you're just feeling wrung out and, oh, this has been a lot of cleanse, you can go sand free, of course. It intensifies the flush of the lymph, right? So you're quickening that pace down through the groins, intensifying or improving the flow of lymph, which is basically a yoga focus in the whole practice. So your hands could be on belly, they could be touching your body, they could be away from your body, and let your eyes close. The important part here would be truly, if you have glasses on, to remove them so the muscles in the face can soften. Just not having any hardware on your face. If you have an eye pillow, place it over the eyes. If you want to bring your hands to cup over the eyes and have that curtain of darkness for a few moments. And gather your attention on the even rhythm of your breath. Even though we've done many, many poses, right? We're back into that single shape we started with. Just reversing the flow of gravity and reversing the effects of gravity on the cardiovascular system in this shape. So giving the heart a rest, the lungs open. Now at any time you can move the sand off of your feet and bring the legs back up. Now let your head nod from side to side. Take a deeper breath in. Exhale it out. Start to bend your knees, and if you have sand, you're going to let that sand be moving back behind you. Okay? You're just going to feel where that support is of your knees bending, whether they're out to the sides or they're pulling into your chest. What's better for you now? Take that shape for your back. And with that squeezing into the abdominal organs, release the kidneys at the back and roll to your side. Come up for a moment. You could sit with your back to the wall if that just is right where you're at. You don't have to reorient yourself in the room. And then find a simple seated, cross-legged, nearly kind of prayerful moment here with the hands resting to the legs and the hands moving up in front of the heart space and letting your brain relax down to the heart center. Surrender there and feeling that collective consciousness from me and the others in the experience right now and all those out there needing support Feeling this practice really as service to the community, to yourself. So inhaling that peace and exhaling, bowing into your heart. In gratitude, namaste. Thank you.